In 1932, Stockholm was a city caught between modern elegance and lingering shadows. Sweden was in the grip of the Great Depression, yet the capital still carried the polished facade of culture, order, and civility. But beneath this calm exterior, a crime would occur so grotesque, so inexplicably bizarre, that the press quickly gave it a name that echoed through the decades: the Atlas vampire. The very notion of a killer who drained the blood of his victim, drinking it from crude vessels, shook even the most hardened investigators. Tonight, we revisit one of the darkest and most macabre unsolved murders in Scandinavian history. The story begins with a woman named Lilly Lindeström. At 32 years old, Lilly lived alone in a small apartment in the Atlas district of Stockholm. Her life was a struggle for survival, and like many women of her time, she earned her living through sex work. Friends described her as practical, kind, and weary from the weight of daily hardships. On May 4th, 1932, her neighbor became concerned after Lilly had not been seen for several days. It was unusual for her to disappear without notice. The neighbor finally decided to enter the apartment. What they found was not the absence of a woman, but the presence of a nightmare. The scene inside Lilly's apartment was ghastly. Her body was found sprawled on the bed, completely naked. The position of the corpse suggested violence and violation. Her skull had been crushed by repeated blows from a blunt object. Yet it was not the wounds that most horrified investigators. What truly shocked them was that Lilly's body was almost completely drained of blood. Around the room, police discovered a ladle and a teacup, both stained with traces of human blood. Someone had not only killed Lilly but had used crude utensils to drink from her veins. The press swarmed over the case. Sweden in the 1930s was not unfamiliar with violent crime, but the combination of sex work, blood drinking, and ritualistic suggestion made this case unique. Newspapers coined the killer's moniker, the Atlas vampire. Readers across Scandinavia devoured every detail, both fascinated and horrified. For a society that considered itself rational, progressive, and modern, the possibility of a vampire roaming Stockholm was both absurd and terrifying. Rumors spread faster than facts, and the case quickly became a symbol of unspeakable depravity lurking beneath ordinary life. The police began their investigation by interviewing Lilly's clients. As a sex worker, she had a range of regular visitors, some of whom were known to the authorities. Witnesses confirmed that Lilly had been visited by men in the days leading up to her murder. Some neighbors reported hearing noises, though no one could provide a clear timeline. Forensics in 1932 was primitive. Blood typing existed but was limited. DNA analysis was decades away. Investigators collected the blood-stained cup and ladle, yet these items only confirmed the gruesome nature of the crime. They did not point to a killer. What made the case especially unsettling was the implication of ritual. Drinking blood was not a common fetish in Sweden at the time. To do so using utensils indicated premeditation, not impulse. Some criminologists speculated that the killer might have been suffering from psychosis, convinced of vampiric delusions. Others believed it was a sadistic client who escalated from sexual dominance into lethal cruelty. The crime scene contained no signs of robbery. Lilly's modest belongings were untouched, her apartment not ransacked. The motive was not greed. The motive was darker, more personal, perhaps even ritualistic. Over the weeks that followed, the police interrogated dozens of men. Several clients admitted to having visited Lilly, but none could be tied to the murder. One man was briefly arrested under suspicion, but his alibi held, and he was released. Every lead seemed to evaporate. The neighbors had seen nothing useful, and the trail went cold. The newspapers continued to speculate wildly, fanning public fear. Was the killer still in Stockholm? Was he hunting again? For women in the city, especially those working in prostitution, fear became a constant companion. The psychological toll on Stockholm was undeniable. A city that prided itself on rational order now whispered about monsters. The vampire imagery was too powerful to ignore. Women clutched their coats tighter at night. Men glanced suspiciously at their neighbors. The murder of Lilly Lindeström became more than a crime. It became folklore. The Atlas district itself acquired a darker reputation. To this day, some locals claim the area holds a lingering chill, as though the shadow of that unsolved crime still drapes itself across the streets. Despite exhaustive efforts, the police eventually ran out of options. The file remained open, but without modern forensic tools, it grew colder by the year. By the late 1930s, as Europe moved toward war, the memory of the Atlas vampire faded from the headlines. But it never disappeared completely. In criminology circles, it remains a haunting example of sadistic crime, unsolved and unexplained. No confession, no clear suspect, no closure, for speculation has continued for decades. Some believe the killer was one of Lilly's regular clients, perhaps a man with violent tendencies who could not resist escalating. Others argue it might have been a stranger, someone who targeted her specifically for ritualistic reasons. A fringe theory suggests the involvement of occult practices, pointing to the ritualistic elements and the cultural fascination with spiritualism in early 20th century Europe. None of these theories has ever been proven. All remain chilling possibilities. The Atlas vampire stands alongside other infamous unsolved crimes, not because of body counts or notoriety, but because of its sheer strangeness. It combines elements of sex, violence, ritual, and myth. It forces us to confront the darker edges of human psychology, the possibility that the killer did not act out of greed, jealousy, or rage, but out of a need that defies reason. Perhaps he sought transcendence through blood. Perhaps he believed himself transformed. Or perhaps he was nothing more than a sadist who found pleasure in cruelty. The truth remains locked in 1932, buried with Lilly's unmarked grave. Almost a century later, the murder remains unsolved. The case has entered the realm of urban legend, repeated in hushed tones and late-night conversations. The Atlas vampire is not merely a story about a woman who lost her life, but a reminder of how fragile our sense of safety can be. In the heart of a modern city, in an era of rational progress, a killer drank blood from the body of his victim and vanished into the night. It is a story that challenges our assumptions about civilization, a story that refuses to be forgotten. So, who was the Atlas vampire? Was he a madman lost to delusion, a client consumed by sadism, or something even stranger? We will never know. What we do know is that Lilly Lindeström deserved more than to be remembered as the victim of a monster. Her life, though overshadowed by her death, was real, human, and tragically brief. As we close this chapter, we leave the mystery where it has always been, unsolved, unsettling, and unforgettable. Thank you for watching this deep dive into one of the most bizarre and chilling murders in Scandinavian history. If you found this story haunting, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Dark Butterfly for more true crime mysteries, unsolved cases, and chilling stories from the shadows. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next video.